Picture this, you're out there on the water, the sun's just starting to dip, and bam, your line tightens. You've got a fish on, the only thing standing between you and victory is one fly. That fly, the Wright's Royal. And I'm going to show you how to tie it. Today we'll be using a size 12 hook from Montana Fly Company, as well as some 10-aught black thread from Veevus. I like to tie this fly in anywhere from size 12 to 16. We're going to start our thread about a third of the way down the hook. Give it a few securing wraps, and we're going to clip our excess free. We're going to continue wrapping our thread to the back of the bend. At this point, I like to spin up my thread. While that's spinning, we're going to grab a Peacock eye stick and select a few pieces of Herl, about 4 to be exact. We'll pull these so that the tips align, and we'll clip them off. Make sure that you use Peacock eye stick, as the Herl is much better than the bulk pack Herl. We're going to clip these off evenly, and we're going to separate them about an inch away from the tips and pull off the brittle ends. I continue doing this until I feel like there's a little bit more force, knowing that the Herl's not going to snap after I tie it in. When I feel confident with my Herl, I will take a couple pinch wraps to secure the Herl to the back of the hook. Typically I would leave my thread here, but here I'm going to cover up my tag ends instead. Leaving the thread as you wrap the Herl in front of it, pushing the thread forward, helps consolidate the Herl as you wrap forward. But for this demonstration, we'll just wrap as regular, making sure that we keep an eye out for the barb of the hook, as this can easily split our Peacock Herl. We'll wrap this about a third of the way up the hook towards the thread. At this point, we'll take our thread and we'll secure our Herl with a couple thread wraps behind and a couple in front. At this point, we'll cut our excess free and make sure that we take this Herl and we set it aside. We will use it later. At this point, we're going to grab some red floss, and using a pinch wrap, we're going to secure it just in front of the Herl. You can secure your tag ends and make sure that you have a smooth body. We'll counter wrap this floss to create our indicating midsection. Trout go wild over this red royal midsection. We'll secure our floss with a couple thread wraps behind, as well and in front, and snip our excess free. At this point, we can lay down a thread base to just behind the eye of the hook, returning our thread to just at the end of the floss. At this point, we'll grab some bleached elk hair, and we're going to separate a piece about the same width as the hook gap. Using a pair of scissors, we'll clip this free. And as I've stated before, I like to grab my hair about 2/3 of the way up, strip out as much of the underfur and shorter fibers as I can. If you need to, you can grab a brush to help you pull out these fibers. After we've prepped our hair, we can add this hair to a hair stacker. I'll tap the hair stacker against my knuckle to align the tips. After the tips are aligned, we can consolidate our hair, and we'll measure it to just about a hook shank in length. Make sure you pull out all the fuzzy fibers. Measure this to about a hook shank in length. Then we'll take that measurement and we'll add about the length of the hook gap to it. We'll transfer that measurement to our thread, and we will use one wrap around the hair to consolidate the hair together. At this point, we'll take a loose wrap around the hook, gently pulling tighter with every securing wrap, making sure our hair doesn't spin around the hook shank. Take several thread wraps to secure your upwing to the top of the hook. The hair should stick just beyond the hook bend, like an exaggerated caddis. At this point, we'll take the excess fibers up front and snip it at an angle just in front of the eye to the thread to create a nice taper. You can clean up the sides if you need to, or any errant fibers. At this point, we'll take our thread and we'll secure all of our tag ends, creating a nice smooth taper on the last third of the shank. Continue taking thread wraps to make a nice tapered head. This is going to prepare it for the next two steps. At this point, we're going to grab some Whiting Farms brown saddle hackle. We're going to strip off about a 1/4 inch from the bottom of the feather, as well as just a few more fibers on the side of the feather that we'll be wrapping toward. Remember, we want the shiny part facing forward. Here you can see that I stripped the extra fibers from that side of the feather. This helps the hackle lay down in a smooth fashion. We'll tie it in with the shiny side facing forward, using one wrap behind and a couple wraps in front. You can clip loose if there's any barbules that get in your way. At this point, we'll grab the peacock excess that we snipped off earlier, and we'll secure that to the head using a couple wraps, as well as the stem of our hackle. At this point, we'll grab our peacock herl, and using only a few wraps to create a head, we'll counter wrap it and secure it with a couple thread wraps behind and a couple more in front. At this point, we'll clip our excess free. And we can use a couple more wraps to clean up behind the eye. We'll then grab our hackle, and we'll start wrapping this around the head, about 4 wraps. Secure your feather with a couple thread wraps behind and a couple more thread wraps in front. Pulling our fibers back is not to catch them and crowd the eye. At this point, we can clip our hackle free, grab our whip finisher, and we'll add just a few wraps of whip finish to secure the knot. At this point, we can clip our thread free. And today I'll be using some Loon Hardhead Clear. I add this to my bodkin needle, and I apply some to the very top and the very bottom of the threads to secure them. Alright, there you go. The Wright's Royal. Clean, deadly, and ready to catch some fish. If you learned something today, hit that like button and let me know which fly you think we should tackle next week. Be sure to follow us on Instagram. We host a free fly giveaway every Friday. Until next time, keep the vise spinning, the rods bent, and the beer cold. I'll see you out there.